Question number 2. Describe the Greek invasions of India and their impacts. First, introduction. In 336 BC, at the young age of 20, Alexander became the ruler of the Kingdom of Macedonia in northern Greece. His father Philip had ruled over all of Greece, but after his death, several Greek city-states became independent. But Alexander soon established power over all of Greece. He then conquered the territories of the Iranian Empire, which extended from Western Asia and Egypt to the Indian regions of Gandhar and Sindh. In 330 BC, Alexander defeated the Iranian Emperor Darius III at the Battle of Arbela, burned his capital Persepolis, and then planned to invade India. Alexander advanced towards Afghanistan and then conquered Bactria and its surrounding regions. Second, Alexander's invasion of India. At the time of Alexander's invasion of India, many small and large states existed in India. Many republics existed around the Jhelum and Chenab rivers. In 327 BC, Alexander invaded India with an army of about 50,000. It came. King Ambi of Taxila accepted Alexander's authority without a fight and sent his ambassador to invite him to invade India. King Sisugupta of Hindukush was defeated by Alexander. Later, he became Alexander's friend and helped Alexander a lot in achieving victories in India. Two divisions of the army were formed from Nicaea to invade India. Alexander accepted the leadership of one division and handed over the leadership of the other division to his two generals. The army led by Greek generals first invaded the Aztec kingdom. The Aztec king gave a tough fight to the Greek army, but the Aztec king was killed in the battle, and after that the Greek army advanced. First, war with the Aswakhian people. Alexander was in command of the second division of the army. Alexander had to fight with the freedom-loving people living in the valleys of Kunar, Panchkot, Swat, who came along the way. The Aswakhian people resisted Alexander's attack strongly, but Alexander defeated the Aswakhian people, imprisoned about 40,000 men, and took away 230,000 oxen from them and sent them to their homeland Greece. Women in the Aswakhian army also fought to protect their country, but Alexander was ultimately successful in the war. The king of the Aswakhian people died from an arrow. The queen of the Aswakhian king surrendered to Alexander. Alexander, as promised, allowed 7,000 soldiers of the district to safely leave the capital. But as soon as these soldiers left the fort, Alexander's soldiers attacked them and killed them all. This heinous act of Alexander has also been criticized by Greek historians. Second, the Battle of Taxila. After conquering the hilly regions, Alexander came to the banks of the Indus River. A little distance from here, another army sent under the leadership of generals met him. The entire army moved forward and approached Taxila. Instead of fighting, the king of Taxila, Ambikumar, gave Alexander a grand welcome. He filled the court in Taxila, gave Alexander many gifts, and accepted Alexander's surrender. Alexander also gave him gold and silver vessels in return and made him a friend by providing him with a small army. Third, Alexander and Porus. Alexander sent a message to the king, who did not accept his authority to surrender. Some of the kings accepted Alexander's authority, but Porus, the king of the region between the Jhelum and the Chenab, refused to surrender. He sent a message back to Alexander that he would welcome Alexander not with gifts but with weapons and armor. Hearing Porus's reply, Alexander came with his army to the banks of the Jhelum River, where Porus's army was waiting for him. The river had flooded due to melting snow. Since Porus's army was on the opposite bank, it was difficult for Alexander to cross the Jhelum River. Taking advantage of the rain and the dark night, Alexander crossed the Jhelum River with about 11,000 of his elite warriors, even in torrential rain. When Porus got this information, he also sent his son with 2,000 soldiers and 120 chariots to block Alexander's path. But Alexander killed him. After that, a fierce battle took place between Porus and Alexander's army. Porus' chariot and horse post could not pace Alexander's cavalry on the slippery ground due to rain. The soldiers could not shoot arrows. The elephants slipped, and later the elephants, which had gone mad, created panic in Porus' army. Porus was defeated. Later he was imprisoned and presented before Alexander. Alexander asked Porus how he should treat him. Porus replied that one king expects to be treated as one king treats another king. Alexander was pleased with Porus's answer and returned to his kingdom to him. Alexander gave the administration of all the 15 republics he conquered, which consisted of 5,000 cities, to Porus. However, Porus now became Alexander's Kandya king. Fourth, war with the Kut Republic. After conquering various territories, Alexander invaded the Kut Republic east of the Ravi River. The Kut people were known for their courage and war skills. The Kut people bravely faced Alexander. Seeing the dire situation of the war, Alexander called Porus for help with an army. Finally, Alexander gained control of the Sangal, the capital of Kut. Alexander was so enraged by this war that he destroyed the port of Sangal and killed 17,000 of the Kut Republic. The soldiers were killed and 70,000 were taken prisoner. Alexander's army had to pay a heavy price for this war, and the morale of the army was broken. After that, the states of Sobhuta and Baghal surrendered to Alexander V. Alexander's retreat. When he reached the bank of the Bias River, which was conquering the territories by destroying the Kut Republic, his soldiers refused to advance. It is said that someone here told Alexander that the Nanda Empire is the north was very powerful. It would be difficult to pass it. Porus also confirmed this to Alexander. Hearing this, Alexander was ready to attack, but his army was tired of fighting wars. They wanted to return to their homeland. Some had fallen ill and they also ran out of supplies. Alexander persuaded his soldiers a lot, but later, on hearing the news of the strength of the Nanda Empire, they were so frightened that all of Alexander's pleas went in vain. Finally, Alexander, helpless, agreed to let the army return home. To commemorate his arrival at the beach, he built 12 stone altars in the names of the Greek gods on the banks of the river. He returned by the same route he had taken to India from the Bias River. On his return, he gave some of the territories he had conquered in India to Porus and Ambi. On his return, Alexander had to pass many Indian states, and Alexander's army was very troubled. He brought his army to the Indus River and divided the army into two parts. One part left by sea. Alexander took the other part by land to Babylon. Alexander fell ill suddenly in Babylon and died shortly after at the young age of 33. 3. Effects of Greeks' Alexander invasions of India. Alexander invaded India in 327 BC, but his dream of conquering India didn't come true. He had to return after conquering some territories in India for only about 3 years. There is a difference of opinion among European and Indian scholars about the results of Alexander's invasion of India. The historian Smith says Alexander's invasion was like a storm that came and went. Ripson writes, the event of the invasion is so great that it is impossible that its results would not have been great. Indian. According to historians, this invasion, although commendable, cannot be considered an unprecedented military victory. Alexander's invasion had no lasting impact on literature, life, or governance, and the few traces of his conquests that remained were wiped out by Chandragupta Maurya. Nevertheless, it can be said that his expansion into Asia was not a complete failure. It should not be forgotten that his political and cultural influence on India was also indirectly affected by his invasion. A. Political effects. First, promotion of political unity. The immediate effect of Alexander's invasion was that small kingdoms in Punjab were wiped out and the kingdoms of the northwest were destroyed. Alexander conquered the small kingdoms and merged them with the kingdoms of Ambi, Porus, and Abhisar. As a result, the path of Chandragupta Maurya to establish his absolute power became easy. Alexander's invasion made the path for the unity of India under the leadership of Chandragupta Maurya were easy. Thus, Alexander's invasion became the driving force for establishing political unity in India. Second, the weakness of the Indian army was exposed. Alexander's invasion exposed the weakness of the Indian army. The Indians realized that small states, despite being powerful, could still collapse in the face of an organized foreign power. This invasion also taught the Indians the lesson that even if their army was small in number, it could still achieve victory if it was organized, well equipped, and well trained. As a result, the Indian army adopted some of the peculiarities of the organization, warfare, and strategy of the Greek army, revealed the internal weakness of the Indians. Alexander achieved success in India. The reason for this was that traitorous kings like Sasigupta and Ambi helped Alexander. Different states and republics decided to face Alexander in different ways instead of fighting under the leadership of a single chief. As a result, Alexander crushed them one by one. If all those states had faced Alexander together, the situation would have been somewhat different. Thus, Alexander's invasion revealed the internal weakness of the Indians. Fourth, routes opened between the East and the West. An important aspect of Alexander's invasion, the result was that waterways and land routes opened up between the East and the West. Through these routes, India's contact with the Western countries increased. As a result, trade increased and cultural exchange began between the two countries. Fifth, arrival of the Greek in India. Alexander had built cities on the border of India during his conquests. The Greeks had settled in Bactria and Persia. They established dominance over the border regions of India. They arrived in India after the fall of the Mauryan Empire. B. Cultural impacts. First, impact on astronomy. The Greeks had good knowledge in the field of astronomy. Plato also noted that the Indians accepted the astronomy of the Greeks. As a result, knowledge of the planets and the calculation of the days of the week began in India. Second, impacts on sculptures. Conics invited Greek Bactrian sculptures from Bactria to Gandhar to carve the statues of Lord Buddha and Bodhisattvas. The fusion of Indian and Greek sculpture is visible in the creation of these statues. The combination of these two sculptures gave rise to the art of sculpture called Gandhar style. This can be considered a distant impact of Alexander's invasion. Third, impact on coins. Before Alexander's invasion, coins in India were without any particular shape. They didn't have any specific shape. But as a result of Alexander's invasion, this changed. Now Indian coins started becoming artistic and shapely. With the increase in trade between Greece and India, Greek coins started circulating in India. As a result, coins like owl-style coins of Athens and silver drum were imitated. The Indian coin dinar is a result of this. Fourth, increase in the geographical knowledge of the world. Dr. Rai Chaudhary writes that the sea voyages and adventures undertaken by Alexander broadened the geographical view of his contemporaries. Before Alexander's invasion, the Western countries and some misconceptions about the geographical situation of India, which were removed by Alexander's invasion. Thus, the geographical knowledge of the world increased. Last point, conclusion. Thus, Alexander's invasion had a positive impact on India, but it was not permanent, could not be. In the words of Dr. Smith, India didn't change at all after Alexander's invasion. India did not become Greece. It went on living its own splendid life. The Indians were quickly forgot Alexander's invasion. Yet the direct and indirect effects it had on various fields cannot be underestimated. Dr. Thorne writes, although the direct effects of Alexander's invasion disappeared from India within a single generation, and Indian literature didn't attach much importance to his invasion, it nevertheless affected the history of the India for centuries. Thank you for watching and listening my video. Have a nice time and bye.